This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, everyone. This is Ken Quigley from Keystroke, and today we're going to do a deep dive webinar on Act4mail. Act4mail is a successor product to our extremely popular Act4Outlook. In fact, Act4Outlook is the most popular Act add-on of all time. However, Act4Outlook is meant to provide integration when you have Act and Outlook installed on the same computer. As the cloud, increased cloud usage of Act, kind of evolved, we realized that we needed a product that worked with Act Premium Cloud where you don't have Act installed. You're accessing it entirely through the browser. So the way that we do that is we access it through the Act Web API. Now, I just want to show people quickly where to find some of this information so they don't feel that they've got to take notes or memorize everything. If you just click on, this is our website. If you click on Our Programs, Act4 Products, and then Outlook Integration, then you're going to see all the descriptions. Here's the price, here's the trial period, download links, everything you need, and here's a basic feature breakdown. Okay, Loves is going to do a deep dive, but I wanted to kind of point out here that this, you can kind of analyze the difference with this comparison chart between Act4Outlook and Act4mail. A lot of people are familiar. We sold thousands and thousands of licenses of Act4Outlook, but people aren't as familiar with Act4mail. So I wanted to kind of explain where the feature set of one begins and the other ends. Now, the other thing that since October of last year, when SwiftPage came out with Act CRM SaaS, one of the other big demands or lead generators for Act4mail was their tiers. Here is the Act CRM SaaS. Now, this tier and this tier, the second and third tier, include built-in Outlook and Google integration. Okay, so that's involved in this one and this one. This one doesn't. However, Act4mail for $3 a month actually provides this integration.
Don't leave it there.
Everyone else is muted.
Okay, I'm going to mute some people here.
I just did, yeah.
Okay, so please keep yourself muted. A lot of people aren't aware that when they're talking. Anyway, so this is something that a lot of people have really asked, especially resellers have asked us about, will Act4mail work with this? And this is often, the Outlook integration is often one of the reasons that people don't consider essentials, but with Act4mail, okay, for as little as $3 a month, they can get that. And you can see for $3 a month, okay, you can save as much as 15. Okay, so I want to just quickly cover that. I'm going to also go back to the homepage, and I'm going to show you where you can find the recording of this event tomorrow. We typically have it posted the next day, so you just simply scroll down. And here where it says Keystroke Training Videos, this is going to be our presenter today. Last month, he was the Employee of the Month, well earned. And here you are, and you just simply click on Keystroke Product Videos, and it will be down here. Okay, so with that, Lubs, I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks, Ken.
You want to take the screen?
Absolutely. Rick, pass it over. Thank you. Get off of there. And get our Act4mail over there. Okay. So we're going to show you two ways to use Act4mail. The first way is going to be from within Outlook, and then there's also sort of what we would call this, I guess, the standalone product of Act4mail, where you can utilize it to mostly where it's useful for is like sending merges to your Act4web contacts. Okay, so we're looking here at our Act4web. I'm sorry, at our Outlook setup here. Okay, and let's go into our settings to show you how you would set it up. Okay, and let me do one thing here. Let me turn off my Act4Outlook so we don't see multiple menus of the same thing. Otherwise, it might get confusing. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we have Act4mail up here. We have Act4mail Settings and Act Database Settings. first thing we're going to do is go into the Act4mail settings to show you how to set it up. First thing you should do here, okay? So the first thing you need to do is input your web API URL. And as Ken had showed you how to sort of find that before, and if you forgot that, once again, this thing is being recorded, so when we put the recording up, you can certainly go in there tomorrow and see how you find your URL for your API. If you still struggle, simply reach out to us and we can certainly help you out with that. It's a quick find on our part, so if we need to find that for you. Next is your database name, okay? So that's going to be pretty easy to find as well. And then your Act username and your Act password to log in. And then once you have that information all set, you click the login button to test it. And it'll either say login successfully, as you see there, or it'll give you some sort of error message. If there's an error message, what we typically tell people to do is first thing to do is check your password. Passwords are case sensitive, so that's usually the first place to check. If you're sure that's unconfirmed, check your spelling of your username, the spelling of your database name. Neither one of those are case sensitive, so you don't have to worry about that. Neither is the API, but just look for typos in any of those three. If you're still not connected, contact us and then we can help you figure out what the issue might be. Sometimes either if it's a self-hosted thing, it could be your API is not working, or it could just be that maybe there is something blocking it on your side. So, but we can definitely get that resolved for you on your end if there is an issue. So once you have your login set up and successful, next thing you want to do is sort of go through your options to make sure you have it set up correctly and emailing things the way you want it to be emailed. So first thing there is the history recording, and we'll go through these here. So you have the history type. This is going to be the type that gets recorded to the history once an email is sent. So you have 5 different options there, ranging from subject only and down to attach when there is an attachment. Okay, meaning that it will attach it only if you see an attachment on there. Okay. A couple other options we have here. Do you want to attach emails to Act database users? Okay. So, for example, if you are emailing among people within your organization who are also Act users, and you want those emails to attach to them, you would have that checked. I would say a majority of our clients probably don't have that checked just because they don't want interoffice emails necessarily being attached. Make history private. If you want to have the history of the emails automatically be private when you're sending those, you can have that checked, and then any emails being sent will be private. This is a neat one here, the third one here. Attach all sent messages, even if they're not sent from this machine. So what that allows you to do is if you have a mobile device, whether it be an iPhone, iPad, etc., you send an email from there, maybe while you're traveling, or maybe at night when you're not at your computer. The next day you come into your office, you open up your Outlook. What Act4mail will do, it'll go through your sent files, your sent folder, and if it sees anything in there that was not sent from this machine, it will then record it to the history of those contacts that are in there. Okay. Once again, you have to have that checked if you want that to happen. 2 other options here we have: history linking. If you want the emails that are being sent to link to the companies and or opportunities automatically as well. And for opportunities, it's only going to do the open ones. Okay, so anything that's open, nothing that's been closed or lost. You would just check the appropriate boxes for those. And then finally, exclude accounts. So as you see here, I have 4 email accounts within my Outlook setup. I have my KQC, my personal email, and then a couple other KQC emails down there. Now, if I don't want emails that I send from certain accounts to be attached, I just check those boxes. Okay, so that's usually, you would want to usually do that for maybe a personal account, and then something, if it's being a shared account, you probably want to check those aside from maybe one machine. So let's say you have 4 people that are using the service email. You want it to be recorded in Act, but you don't want 4 copies of it to be recorded in Act. So if you had 4 people installed with it, you would choose one person that would leave that box unchecked so that their emails are being recorded, and then the other 3 would be checked, and they're not going to be recorded then in Act. Otherwise, you'd have 4 things in your histories from that email, okay? If you're sharing an email address. Next, we have incoming messages. So if you wanted to have your incoming emails automatically attached to history, this is where you would check this field here. So you want to be careful with this, because if you do this and let's say you reply to a majority of your emails that you receive, this is sort of overkill because you're receiving the email, it's getting attached, and then you're sending it, which has that email that you just received in the reply as well. So it's almost like you're double attaching there. So, but some of our clients, they get a lot of emails, but they may not reply to the majority of them. And this is perfect for them because they automatically attach, even if they don't reply to it. Okay. And you also have the ability to ignore certain domains. So you could ignore, for example, qc.ca or keystroke.ca if you don't want to attach anything that's sort of within your organization. Lastly, we have an update tab, and this is just a checkbox here if you don't want it to check for updates on startup. Typically, the only reason you have that is if maybe you have it locked down where people can't install it and you don't want them to worry about that anyway. So you would check that. Otherwise, you usually want that to happen. This way, if we've done any updates, you want to have the most current update to work with. And one menu that sort of gets overlooked in here by people because it doesn't look like a menu really, it just looks like a word, about. But if we click that button, you can see the EULA there. And then what we really want to talk about here, though, is about Act4 Outlook. Okay. And here it allows us to, number one, register if we haven't registered yet. But more importantly, if we're moving a license. So for example, let's say I got a new laptop and I'm changing my license from my current laptop to my new one. I would go here on the one that's getting decommissioned, delete the license, so then I can then register on my new laptop. Otherwise, when I would go to my new laptop, it's going to say all licenses have been used. You can't register. So I want to make sure I do that. Another place you can check for updates if you don't have the automated updates on. And then one other important thing here is view logs. So if I click that button, it opens up takes me to my folder where the log files are. So this is good if you ever get errors or emails aren't attaching or things of that nature, and you email us and we say, oh, please email the logs you have from today or the last couple of days that you have them. This is the place you go get those. You just simply attach the last 2 to 3 log files that you have to an email, send them over to us, and then we can take a look at those and see what might be happening within there to cause the issues you're having. Okay. So that's pretty much the setup. Okay. In any setup you do, or any changes I should say that you do to the setup, for them to take place, you want to close down Outlook and reset. So for example, let's say the history type, you changed it from subject only to subject, body, and attachments, and then you went to send an email and it still said subject only. That would be because you didn't restart Outlook. Okay. I haven't really done any changes here to take note of, so I'm not going to worry about restarting my Outlook. But just make sure that on your side, if you make a change there, to take effect, you want to make sure you restart Outlook. And also you want to make sure you save and close to save your changes that you've made. Okay. So I have a couple test emails in here of contacts that I have in my Act4 Web database. So I'm just going to simply reply to a couple emails here and show you how they show up in Act. Okay, so I have Nav in here. I'm going to reply to him. And then send it. And so before we send this, let me show you what we have here. So we have a couple buttons here in Outlook here for Act4mail. So the send button is just the normal Outlook send. If you send it, it's going to, if you hit that button, I should say, it will look for that email address in Act. If it finds it, it's going to attach it to that record. Okay. You can also do a send without attaching. So if I'm just sending an email to Nav, even though he's in my Act, but maybe I don't want this to be attached because it's just a simple email or a simple confirmation, and I don't really need that in Act, I would click that button. It sends the email, doesn't record anything in the Act database. Okay. The other button here, send and link. This allows me to send the email and then also link it to something else. So for example, maybe it pertains to Nav, but I want to link it to an opportunity. Okay, so it gives me a list of my opportunities, or I can link it to a group, a company, or additional contacts. Okay, so the email doesn't get sent to all those contacts. It only gets sent, in this case, to Nav, but it'll be on, if I attach it to 5 different contacts, it's going to be on all their histories. Okay. For this one, I'm just going to hit the regular send button, and it gets sent. Okay. For Ken, I'm going to go ahead and create an activity on Ken's record here. So I'm going to right click, and when you do a right click, you get a couple options here. Quick attach email to Act. So that's going to quickly just look for that email address and attach it to a contact that has that email address. If I hit send email to Act, it's similar to quick attach, but it lets you choose where you want to attach it to. So let me just show you that. It's almost similar to the send in link when you're sending an email. So this is an incoming email I send to Act, and then once again, it automatically finds Ken in here, but I can attach it to multiple other entities as well, another company, a group, opportunity, or another contact. If it's a new contact, somebody's not in my database, I can create the contact in Act, which we'll show you in a second here how to do that because Ken's already in here. And actually, let me just show you what happens when a record is already in Act. You'll get this message indicating that the contact with that address is already in your database. Do you still wish to create the contact? In this case, no. Let's just go in here. We're going to create an activity in Act. Okay, so we'll create it for tomorrow, 9 to 10:30. Let's say this is going to be a meeting. We can put an alarm on there if we want to. The regarding is going to be pulls it from the subject of the email. I can change it if I need to, but many times that's going to be enough for the regarding of that activity. And then if I go to my details tab, it's basically going to be the body of the email. So this is great. That's just how I schedule things all day. When people send me emails and want to meet for a particular reason, I simply right click, create activity from email, and then everything's already in there. Okay, it saves me a lot of typing and everything, saves a lot of time. If I click this schedule meeting in Outlook, what that will do is it'll put it in my Outlook. It will also bring up like an Outlook invite for him, and I can then send that over to Ken. Okay, and then it'll go to his Outlook, or if he has Act, he can import it into Act or whatever other program he might use on his end. So this is great how you can invite the person from a scheduler in Outlook. In addition here, we have the links to the other entities, including the link to the My Record, the My Contact. So if I want to include myself on there, I can do that as well. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and click Create here to create that activity. Lets me know it's successful. All right, we're going to do one more thing before we go to the Act database to show you the information there. So Billy's not in my database, so I'm going to create a contact from Billy. Okay. So before I do that, let me go to my Act database settings, so that's where some of that is controlled. Okay. So this is for the field mapping to sync it from Act to Outlook. So if I want to send a contact from Act to Outlook or Outlook to Act, this is where that field mapping is controlled. Okay. And it already sort of finds the ones that are familiar, but if you needed to map it to a different field, you click that drop down and map it to the field accordingly. Okay. Also on here is activity settings. So when you're scheduling an activity, what do you want that default activity to be? History settings for incoming messages. How do you want that to be recorded? And sometimes what people do is they create a custom activity or history type that says Act4mail attachment. So they know they can then do a report and see all the emails that were attached automatically from Act4mail. And another one where you have contact exclusion settings. So you can ignore history recording for contacts based upon field values. So maybe you wanted to exclude any history being written for anybody whose ID status is employee. So you would choose ID status for your field and then value employee. Okay. Save that. So just want to make sure I went over that before we got into the next part here. Okay.
Well,
so getting
Michael,
back to
before you go, one quick question. Does it check first to see if the same email is already recorded before attaching an email to history? You know, avoid duplicates.
So if I'm sending, so for example, let's say I reply to somebody, then I reply to them again, or if I recorded one here, like if I did a quick attach, I guess maybe that's what they're referring to.
Well, if it received emails automatically attaching, that's what he was referring to.
If a received email was attached.
Yeah, example.
Yep.
One of the examples given: if multiple users have emails automatically attached, will that email be attached 6 times?
Oh, I see. If they're sharing an email address, I see. Yeah, in that case it will. That's another reason why you want to be careful with the automatic incoming. If you do use a shared email address, and you're all actively using it and don't have any exclusions on,
or not a shared email, but if Ken and I get the same email, will it automatically attach to that record twice? If we both
correct,
have automatic.
yes, it will, because you're on 2 different machines. So you have Vic's machine and Ken's machine, 2 different machines, and actually 2 different email addresses as well. So yep. So, and once again, another reason to think about that incoming part of things is, which is exactly what Vic said there. Somebody sending out a same email to everybody in your company, you may get that same email attached 2, 5, 6, a dozen times in that person's record. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yep. All right. So here we're going to create contact for Billy in the database. Okay. And this opens up here, and I can choose the settings I want for this as far as the field mapping when creating a contact with the settings button here. I can choose which fields I want to show. Okay. For now, I'll just leave it as it is, and I can even put them in alphabetical order to make them easy to find here. And I'll just add the company name here. And I'll show you why I did that. But by default, it pulls in the contact from the name of the email. So whatever they have on their email sort of settings for their name, that will pop in there. And then their email address will come in as well. Okay. Everything else I sort of have to manually put into a field, whether it be their title, their department, zip code, website, etc. Like I said, I put the company in here because what I'm going to do here is I'm going to check this box up here, which says create and link contact to company. So that will create that company on the company entity for keystroke and also link then that contact to that company. All right. I'm going to hit create. Contact was created. And now let me go into my database. Let me pull that up. Okay, here we go. All right, and as we see here, Billy Clark is in there. Just got created. And as we see here, he is linked to Keystroke, the company. Okay, so let's go to Ken's record here. Okay, there's Ken, and I believe we created an activity. Okay,
Really,
for tomorrow morning.
Really?
He's very American today, and so we created it. As you see here, we have that activity created for Ken for tomorrow based upon that email. So if we wanted to open up, edit it, we'll see the regarding here and the details from that email. Okay. Let's go over back to, I think we were on Nav. And he had a history. Let's go to his history tab. Okay, so there's the email sent, date and time. Because I have mine set to do the attachments, there's a little paperclip there showing me that. So to open up the email to view it again, I can just click that paperclip. And as you see here, depending on your browser, you may get a warning about, if you want to open this file or not. I'm using Chrome. You'll see that there. So I'm going to hit keep. And then it's just an MSG file that downloads real quickly, and I can open it up. And then there's that email. Okay. All right. So, Vic, any questions as of yet regarding what we've done so far?
Oh, you've answered them already.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Okay. No
Oh,
problem.
wait. Well, no, there is one more question. Sorry.
Sure.
If email messages can be stored in a unique location, not default attachments, to limit massive buildup of files.
They cannot. No. So if you're attaching something, so be careful with that. So let's go back to our settings in Outlook. So if we have our history recording set to do attachments. You will want to be careful with that if you do tend to either attach large files with that, because it will include whatever files you are attaching, whether it be a PDF, image files, Word, Excel, etc. So think about that before you turn that on, because it could bloat your database greatly, especially if you're in a sync environment where you have to sync those files as well. So something to take into account when deciding on what history type you want, especially if you have 20 users or something and they're all syncing attachments. That can really sometimes bog the system down, for sure.
Okay, Lebs, one more question. So storage-wise, they really have to be careful, because the question was also, will this add appreciably to my storage? But it will, right? Going through.
For sure, absolutely. Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so in this database I'm going to go to my group section and just show you what I have here. I have a group created, CADLabs test merge, and I have these contacts in there. Okay, and what I'm going to do now is show you how to do a mail merge to those contacts. Okay, through Act4mail. So let's go into this. Involves the standalone product. So let me open that up and show you how that works. So once Act4mail is installed, not only will you get the Act4mail settings within Outlook itself, but you also have this Act4mail program that gets installed. And first thing we'll do here is sort of go over some of the menus in here to show you how to become familiar with that. So we have the file, one thing there, exit. That's pretty simple. Okay. Next thing you want to do is the API settings. So these are exactly how they were in Outlook. So you just basically, you can copy and paste them once you have the Outlook part set up, and just paste them in here, and then log in just to test it out to make sure everything's connected properly. And once again, it'll let you know whether or not it's successful or not. Hit save once it's successful. And the next thing you want to look at is Act4mail. And before we get to the Write and Manage Templates part, we're going to go to Settings. You need to have an SMTP setting set up here. Okay. Before we get to that, though, you want to define where the templates are going to go. So the templates aren't on the web in this case. They're stored locally and or on a server. So anywhere where you have access to, whether it be your local computer or a server, you define that template folder. And then you also define a field in your database that will exclude a contact. So if you somehow forget to take a person out of your lookup or out of your group that shouldn't be getting an email, if the email permission field includes the word here denied, they're not going to get the email no matter if they're in that group that you're sending to or not. Okay. And if you don't have that field in there, and you can create one, it doesn't have to be called email permission. You can use an existing field you have if you already sort of use a field within your database that sort of excludes or includes people into your mailings. And it doesn't have to be the word denied. It could be approved or confirmed or not confirmed, not approved, whatever, yes or no even. It's your own terminology. That's just what we use here. Okay. Next, we have the email settings, and this is where you would input your SMTP settings. So you have your display name, how you want your name to be shown on the email when they receive it, your email address, and then your server address, your username, which is going to be your email address more times than not, email password, the port, whether or not it has encryption. Okay. If you're using Exchange, this is the default settings for Exchange. So if when you watch the recording, if you want to copy those down, obviously the username and password will be different for your Exchange, but the server address is the same for Exchange, the port is the same for Exchange, and the encryption. Okay. And then you would just, to make sure that works for you, you would hit test connection, and same thing. You would either get text successful or something's wrong. So if something goes wrong, once again, check your username and password, make sure there's no typos in your server address. If that all fails, what you'd want to do is contact your, whoever your email provider is to find out what the information is if you don't have that handy. Next, we want to go to our history settings, and just define when we send the history, when we send this merge, what do we want the history to show? What type do we want it to show? Once again, same thing here as I mentioned before. Some people create a custom one so that it actually says Act4mail or mail merge or something of that nature, so that they know when they do a report, they can see all the ones that have that terminology. And many others just choose the simple one, email sent, that's already in there. And then another one here, another update checkbox, do not check for updates on startup, just like we saw in the one that's within Outlook itself. Okay. So now let's go back to actually sending something. We're going to save that. We're going to go back to our Act4mail menu. And before we actually send an email, I'm going to show you how to manage a template, how to create a template, how to edit a template as well. So it's under the Act4mail menu, manage templates. It's going to open up a template editor. And for anybody on this call who has used either Notifier or custom tables or Mail Manager Pro, Mail Manager for Act or Mail Merge for Act, this template designer is the same one. So you'll be very familiar with that. Okay. So it's not using the Act template designer or Word or anything like that. It's its own custom designer. And you can start one from scratch, or I've already created one, and I'll just sort of show you what that is. Okay, just let you know. So it pulls in. You can pull in the fields, and let me show you how it does that. You can have graphics in there, so you can merge from contact fields. You can merge from what's called the My Record, so your information, like for example, my signature, it's pulling in my contact name, or opportunity fields. Okay, so those are the three different places you can pull fields from if you wanted to do merges. You can do other things as well. Insert pictures. You can put things in a table if you want things to sort of line up correctly. Things like that. You can have a header or footer. The one thing I've noticed with header or footers, and I think this is still an issue. Don't put any images in those because they won't show up when you do a merge. So if you want sort of like a header image on your emails, don't put it in the actual header. Just put it like at the top of your page. Okay? But everything else is here that you would see like in a Word editor or something like that. Okay, so you have different page layout, references, review things, design, view, layout, etc. Okay. Once you've made your changes or created your template, you save it. I haven't done any changes, so that's why save is great out there. Oftentimes what people do is they'll maybe create one template, have their sort of basic template that they use, and then just sort of use that as their starting point, and then change the verbiage, and then do a save as and save it as a new name as they move forward. So let's go ahead and close that down. And so now we're going to send to our contacts, and I don't need to have Act4web open. I had it open already, but I didn't need to have it open, okay, to do the merge. So I can just open up Act4mail and do my merges right from here, right? And there's two options: merge to Word or merge to email. Let's go ahead and merge to email. It's going to prompt me to pick the template I want to merge to. There's my template I want. Checking the database, and now it's pulling up the wizard here. And so now I have three options: selected contacts. And by selected contacts, it doesn't mean the contacts you're currently on. So some people think that it is because the old mailed merge and act, one of the options was current lookup. So that's not an option here. We call it selected contacts. And if we use that on the next page, we can actually select who we want to send it to. Okay, so we can just pick and choose people from the list, or look them up here, do an actual search for them to find them, and then just sort of cherry pick and select the people we want. That's what selected contacts allows you to do. Okay, so that's one option. Another option is all contacts. It's going to send it to your whole database. Or what we're going to do today is just send it to everybody in that group that I showed you. So I find that group, let's test merge, and it's going to send it to everybody in there. Hit next, and now I have the option to, do I want to send it now or send later? Okay, so this is nice if you are happen to work late or happen to work early in the morning, but you don't necessarily want maybe an email getting sent to somebody at 2 a.m. or 5 a.m. in the morning. You want to set maybe like at 8:30 or 9 o'clock, right when they get into the office. So you would click the send later option. And let's say we want to send it tomorrow at 9 a.m. It will then send it tomorrow at that time. Okay. In this case, I'm going to send it now though. Here's where we enter our subject of the email. And if we wanted to merge in a field, merge data into this, make it more personable, we can do so here by inserting a field. Let's say we wanted to merge in, the salutation field. Okay. So then this way, when a person gets it, it's going to have their name in the subject of that email. You can CC or BCC anybody if you wanted to, and you have the nice option here of just doing the initial email. So if this group had 100 people in it, and you didn't check that, you CC'd yourself, you're going to get 100 emails because you're going to be CC'd on 100 emails. But if you check that box with that, you'll just get that first email and not 100 of them. Here's the option to change your reply to address. So maybe I'm sending these from my Michael K at KQC email address, which I am, but I want any replies to go to service at KQC or sales at KQC. I would check that box and then put the appropriate email into there that I want them replying to. This one's very important here. Any emails, any groups that you're sending to that have more than 25, we recommend sending them up in the small batches of, as you see here, 25 with 30-second delay between batches. So you would just check that box, batch size 25, and 30 seconds between batches. Otherwise you get on the spam list and you might get blacklisted from sending emails to those people as well. And we don't want that to happen. So please do that if you do have larger emails going out. Mine's only, I think there's 6 in that group, so I'm not going to worry about that. This is where you would add any attachments. So if you wanted to add a PDF that you're going to send out to them, you can add it here, and you can add multiple attachments. It's not just one. You can add multiple. This is where we're going to record our history. So you would check that and then decide what you're going to attach or how you're going to have it recorded. Okay. And then it's just going to say emails to be sent to the contacts in the merge. Hit next, and then it sort of give you a status of who it's sending to. And depending on how many people you had in that group, as far as timing wise, as you see here, it's going through it rather quickly. We had 6 people in that group, or actually 5. So it got through there pretty quickly. And then finish. I go to my history here. I will see those histories in there with their names as well. Because I personalized that, I inserted that salutation field into the email address there. I'm sorry, into the outgoing email there. Okay. And if you want to see that email, we should see it pretty much right here, I think. There we go. That's what that email will look like once you receive it. Okay. All right. I guess that's pretty much it. Why I set the cover today with the Act4mail. So Vic, I'd like to open the floor to any questions we might have right now.
Yeah, we have one waiting. I use Simple File for Outlook. Will that interfere with this?
Simple File for Outlook. Whoever that is, can I explain what that does?
Gretchen, can you give us a bit more detail on that?
If it's something that's another Act add-on, it could interfere. When I say could interfere, what it could do is you might have duplicates of if it's something that records something to Act.
It says auto files all sent emails at the time you send.
auto files them where though exactly? I'm not sure. It maybe in Outlook folders if that's the case.
I don't know yet. Gretchen? Into client email Outlook folders.
Okay, so that it could, because our program looks at the sent items folder, and if the things are not in that folder, then that could be an issue.
Okay,
So,
there's no other questions at this time, Michael.
okay, so Gretchen, if you want to email me directly, maybe with some more information on that, I can get you more specifics on that to be sure. But basically, like I mentioned, it looks at our sent items when the email gets in there, and that's when it sort of does its magic. So if the file, I'm sorry, not the file, but the email never gets to the sent items, if it bypasses that with your program, then it's probably not going to work with Act4mail. But if it goes into sent items and also, a client folder as well, it's a copy of it, then it shouldn't be any problems.
All right. So, Michael, do you want to give your email address in case Gretchen has some more questions on that?
Yeah, let me.
Okay, while you're getting that, I just want to mention that Act4mail, unlike Act4Outlook, is a subscription product, so it's $36 a year as opposed to a one-time cost. We do have a 2-week trial, so please download the trial. We always encourage people to download the trials in advance, kick it around, test drive it for 2 weeks, make sure it's the right fit for you, and if it works as expected, then you can convert the purchase.
Okay. Anything else?
Okay.
And our trial is 2 weeks, right?
Yes, 2 weeks.
Yeah. So if anybody needs to try it out first, we'd be happy to help you install it and make sure you set up correctly. It's a 2-week trial with that. It's a pretty quick and easy install. The main part of I wouldn't say the trouble, but the toughest part is getting your SMTP and your API stuff in there if you don't quite have that. So, but the install itself is rather quick and painless.
All right, thank you very much, Michael. So remember, if you have any questions, just drop us an email and we'll hopefully be able to get answers for you. So thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.